Good morning, good afternoon, and happy Wednesday. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down every single entry from today as always, and I'm going to be talking about what makes a stock the right stock. See, what most traders don't understand is it's more about what stock you're trading rather than the strategy itself, and whether or not you're trading the right stock or the wrong stock makes a massive difference, the night and day difference. So we're going to talk about the morning and break down what made some of these stocks the right stocks or the wrong stocks and what sort of fits my stock selection criteria. Now, today going at the market open, the opportunities were pretty slim. We didn't have a whole lot going on in pre-market. The leading gapper was up 60% this morning, and I think it had a pretty large float. I forget what it was at the time, but in any case, large float names, and a lot of them today too. And so the ones that stood out to me were both Lucy and AZI. Now, only one of those I was able to trade today, and that was Lucy. What do all of these A-plus stocks have in common? Well, I've got a trading checklist that I stick to every single day. Now, the stocks that I trade, I know have to be in share price beneath 20 bucks a share. Now, typically, whenever you have these stocks that are over $10, they'll typically be a little bit spready. And so, more often than not, the stocks that I actually prefer to trade are more so below $5 a share. So, in that $1 to $5 price range is like that happy medium. Once you get over 10, there's definitely times for opportunity where maybe there's a ton of liquidity and the spreads aren't so much of an issue. But more often than not, you get over 10 bucks and spreads do start to become a bit of an issue. And so anyways, but in any case, 20 bucks a share is sort of that max cutoff for me. If we're over 20 bucks, you're probably going to leave it off the list. In terms of float, typically looking at 20 million shares or less. Obviously, in hotter markets where we might see some of these that are hot with, say, a 30, 40, 50 million share float, depending on price action, again, that's what it comes down to is how the stock is traded because different stocks will trade differently with different size floats. You could have one stock that has a 5 million share float that trades like it has a 100 million share float. You could have a stock with a 100 million share float trade like it has 5 mil float. So it all depends on price action. And I don't want to be trading these stocks that are super grindy, super churny, super wide ranges. It's hard to play risk, right? Hard to position yourself properly. It's just, let's just stay out of it. It's hard to have proper risk to reward. And of course, these low float names are the complete opposite. Typically, much greater risk to reward opportunities, much quicker resolution. That's one of the biggest things for me is having that fast resolution. Am I right? Am I wrong? I want to know right now. And again, the beauty of these low float names is they will give you pretty quick resolution or invalidation too. And the stocks that I trade will typically have news as well. This morning, the stocks that we traded did have news. But it's not a make or break thing for me. It's confluence, it can add conviction, but having news or not having news, it's not really a make or break moment for me because if I look at a stock that's up big on no news, but it's got I'll still go trade it. But now on the flip side though, if you've got a setup that has amazing news but a terrible setup, I'm not going to go trade it. And so at the end of the day, the chart is king. Right, but having these stocks with clean price action, a whole lot of range, you've got that float beneath 20 million shares, you've got share price preferably beneath 5 bucks, but at times between 10 and 20. And so today we had Lucy and AZI. Now, of course, Lucy was nice out of market open, but we had a couple of issues. And I'm green on this today. I was traded for a pullback out of the bell. But the issue on Lucy was when you look at this here on the daily time frame, we can see here, what do we have right overhead? We have the 200 moving average sitting right here at 2 bucks a share. And so I know, okay, I've got heavy resistance sitting there at $2 a share. Easy, clear as day. And so in terms of range here to the upside, you get breaking out at market open because I wasn't watching this in pre-market. It was trading terribly. But watching it at the market open, out of this super tight channel. And again, I knew if we got the break of this channel that we had room here to about 2 up at that 200 moving average. And so this actually does. It gets breaking out at market open and it pulls back and I get this perfect pullback opportunity off the 90 MA. Now, of course, I'm not going to go and chase a breakout on a name like this. Whenever you don't have much range to the upside, the last thing you want to do is go try and chase a breakout. The very last thing you want to do is try to chase a breakout. And so on this here on Lucy, what you see happen here is you have this first 1-2 leg at market open. It pulls back and we see this big wick off the low off the 90 MA, signaling buyers have confirmed off the 9. And so then it pulls back again once more off the 90 MA. And as soon as that happens, you can see here I snag my entry. So I snagged the entry off that pullback. Where does the stop loss go? Well, thankfully, it went pretty tight here at the bottom of this last candle. Or the range back up through new highs. And again, back to what I said about risk to reward. I'm in here at 186 with a stop at 185. I mean, really 184. So 2 cents of risk. And I get a move here back up into the highs to 194. And so just like that, able to capture about a 9-cent move from about 2 cents of risk. You can't make this stuff up. So you're able to break the ice well there. And then you come back and it tries to pull back once more off this past candle's low, as you can see right here. It pulls back, and I try to take it there for the curl back up higher to see if I could put in place a bit of a channel here, a bit of a range after the bell. And so I try to take it here off the pullback. I get a little bit of a move back to the highs here. You can see I was in here at 185, It got to move to the 188. You know, I didn't really get what I was looking for back to the 190s. So, you know, as it began to reject, we saw sellers come back in as it began to try and curl. I just went ahead and took a full exit. So anytime we see sellers come in, it invalidates my strategy or whatever my thesis is. You know, just cut it. This didn't try and play it here either because I knew we had the 2-level overhead, which we had just double topped off of right here as well over 190s. So left alone from there on out. Not a great look. And the problem here was not stock selection. The problem here was the lack of range. You know, because here on Lucy today, you had a 4 million share float, plenty of volume. We just traded 135 million shares of volume today thus far. And price action was clean. The only issue here is a lack of range. And you had the 200 moving average sitting right overhead at 2, you know, which caused this to be a pretty short-lived setup. And sure, there was an opportunity, and I made some money on it today, but wasn't able to do a whole lot. And again, breaking down further why we didn't really have the A+ setup. Now, for one, this is China today. Look back from yesterday, the high of day sits back here right about at 450, right? So we have this 450 high of day. Then obviously we can't go buying up into. Now, the game plan here on my end, you can see, was to watch over 450. Watch over 450 for the range to 25. And with that, you can see that 450 level being right here. And so I'm watching that break at 450, but then the issue here is, look at this. It tries to break the first time. Of course, you never chase that first move. Big wick off the high. Okay, so now I know, okay, cool. It tried to break it, then it tries to break again after market open, and what happens again? Sellers come in again. And so every time this is trying to break over that previous high of day, it's just finding sellers. 1, 2, 3 times. Okay, I'm not going to go play it then. The only way that I could have played this at this point was if we would have cleared over this high and confirmed, really. I mean, like, here, this pretty much tells you everything you need to know. We know we have the previous high of day right here. Why am I going to go try and trade this when it keeps on trying to break higher and it just gets shot down off the highs every single time? You know, so don't fight the market. The market tells you everything you need to know. And so anyways, after this, again, this was the right stock. You had float, 2 million share float. We had range over 450, but price action just never confirmed. And so again, you just don't go and play it. This wasn't China though, so you know, take that how you will. I'm not a man trading the Chinese stocks, but you know, I did trade this last week, and we've had Chinese theme lately, so I can't fault it too much for that. Outside of that, though, the top stock of the day was NVVE. Now, this also had everything checked off. Everything was, look at this, a ton of daily range. I know it's hard to see because it's so beat down here, but we had room here to about 360 towards that 20 moving average. And so we had a really good setup here. And so we had everything checked off. We had range. We had clear float. Price action was awesome. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this. I just had it checked off. And so the only problem that I had here was this first move that happened. It was on such low volume, I couldn't really play it here. You can even see down here, before it really got moving, there really wasn't a whole lot of volume through this range, and so you couldn't really play it here. I couldn't really play it here. You can even see down here, before it really got moving, there really wasn't a whole lot of volume through this range, and so you couldn't really play it here. And, you know, it was a very clean trader. The only thing that I can say is it was a little bit of an issue in terms of spreads. I think, well, I say that, but I think it at most had a 2-cent spread most of the morning. Really, the reason for that is it was just so thin. It was so unbelievably thin. And so this gets breaking out higher. You can see breaks over this high, and I'm looking for its previous high of day. So once it pulls back over that previous high of day off of VWAP, I try to take the pullback entry because we see all this candle, this big wick off the low. Buyers try to step in there. So you can see I grab an entry here at, 340 this morning, risking off of VWAP here. And so I'm looking to see if price wants to curl back higher up into that high of day. It doesn't. And so what happens here is I actually take a very small loss because look at this. It tries to break, look at this here. It tries to break this where this candle breaks the recent high right here. And then it instantly rejects. Well, I took a full exit as soon as that happened and took a small L. My first loss of the morning, my only loss of the morning was right here. But I kept it very minimal because I observed price action. I said, okay, this tried to curl, but it did not. It was unable to. So sellers are finding that. Step out and wait for it to set up again. And so what happens here? Pulls back off the 90 MA and finds a buyer. So finds a buyer off the 90 MA and puts in place this higher low. As this next candle begins to break higher, I take an entry. Stop loss goes at the bottom of the last candle. And so in this case here, I'm in here sitting at, 332. Stops at 317, about 15 cents a risk. And I'm looking for the range back up into the previous high of day. Now, I almost get that, and I traded it quite well. I was looking for that extended move, and you can see what I did here. I took a majority out here. You can see I got some trimmed at 343, got more trimmed at 353 from a 332 entry, so about 20 cents in profit, which, mind you, I had 15 cents a share of risk. And so at that point, about a 1-to-1 move, and I'm looking to see if it wants to get moving higher, and it looks like it wants to. It starts to consolidate here off the 90 MA and VWAP, like it wants to move higher. And I try to give it a chance to do so with, of course, a raised stop loss to see if it wants to maintain VWAP in the 90 MA. And it doesn't, and so I go ahead and take the rest out of above my entry. So only had runners left here, but got a nice play. So this got me back to green on this trade here this morning. Then it pulls back, and this is a very similar setup to yesterday on EVTV, where we have these lower highs put in here, right? Price confirms these lower highs, and you almost get put in this perfect channel here. Look at this. And so we have super defined risk, super defined range, right? So I know that we're finding sellers here overhead. So it gives you an idea of where to be looking to take some profits based on past price action. And so price pulls back off the 20 moving average, and it starts to get bought back up again. I'm like, all right, well, now we're confirming this lower low. Let's see if we can't get this to move back up into the top of its range. And now, of course, this was a bit anticipatory. It carried a bit more risk than the other entries this morning because why? You're beneath the VWAP, you're beneath my 90 MA. That alone reduces my expectancy, and so I sized down on this. This is only a quarter size trade. So very small trade here. You know, what I talk about so much is discretionary sizing, and the fact that we had lesser probability here than, say, entries number 1 or 2, I'm going to size down because my risk is not against me, but the risk to reward is not as great here. Or easier put, the chance of success is slightly lower because it is more anticipatory, right? And so in any case, I do get a nice move here, and I'm able to actually de-risk this rather quickly and take it up from 320 back to 346. So again, super happy with this. Took a full profit after rejecting off the highs. And, you know, I kept on trying to come back for more because what you can actually see is in the moment, whenever we're trading this, you didn't have trend like this. Trend more so looked like this. And so we're looking at this and, you know, it breaks out of this tight channel here. And I'll see if I can't get these pullbacks to sort of squeeze back up higher. And it just never does. It ends up putting in place these lower highs here. And you can see I keep on trying to take these pullbacks. I take this little pullback, take some profits. Take this little pullback, take some profits. And as soon as we get that curl back higher, I'm raising my stops, trying to ensure it stays making that move to the upside. It just doesn't. So what I then recognize is that sellers sitting through this price range and this price range, right? So both times when it tried to base through this range, it just sold off. And so now I know sellers are sitting through here. And so this brings me on to the next point here where I got this last win this morning in MVVE where you can see I'm looking for a pivot here where it breaks out over this high and this area of supply becomes an area of demand. And so as you can see, price breaks above, it pulls back, confirms this is now an area of demand. And so I hop in with a stop loss at the bottom of this range. You can also see with the confluence we had here in this last entry is we had VWAP here, the 90 MA here, just an awesome looking setup. And of course, also the break of that earlier trend as well. And so in this example here, I take the entry after finding a double bottom off of VWAP. Stop goes at the bottom of that candle, and I got a decent move. Nothing crazy. I mean, you can figure I'm in here at 349. Stops at 14 cents a share of risk, and I got to move here to about 365. So nothing crazy about a one-to-one move once again. So really this morning, I didn't have a lot of conviction in what we had moving. The way this was trading today was extremely thin. I had a hard time getting good size on this just because I didn't have much conviction. And so it was weird. A lot of the entries where it was setting up, you had a few things not aligned, like here where you had, for example, where you had price beneath the 90 MA, you know, where I'm typically not going to be fighting trend. You know, we had these big setups. It just wasn't a plus opportunity. So it was the right stock today, but the opportunities here were maybe B class at best. So that sums up the morning, though. That's all I traded today. Overall, a fantastic day today. You had stuff like SMX moving today too, but the spreads here were massive, so I didn't trade SMX today. It's one of those stocks that I did catch a few weeks back, or was it a couple months ago? I don't even know when that was. It was a while back in December. Yeah. Today, I just wasn't really able to play this. I wish that I was, in hindsight. But it's also over 20 bucks. It is quite spready, so it doesn't really suit what I typically look for. Again, that stock selection criteria, you must stick to it. We got to stick to it. We got to stay picky. Got to stay prepared with the stocks that actually meet those criteria. So that being said, that sums up the morning. Overall, a pretty dang good day. The best of the day was that NVVE, definitely the one to trade today. I'm hoping that we get some more opportunities like NVVE tomorrow, even like EVTV from yesterday. Those have been the money makers this week thus far, and I'm hoping that we get some cleaner opportunities too, some much better opportunities. Pre-market has been quite slow, but in any case, all green week as the week carries on. It's been an amazing start of 2026 thus far. Knock on wood that this does continue into the rest of the week and rest of the month. So all that said, if you did learn a thing or two from this video, make sure to subscribe for daily content just like this. And as always, make sure to claim your 7-day free trial down in the description below. That way you can actually trade alongside me every single morning in real time and get alerts, education, watch list, chat room access, journals, scanners, momentum AI, and so much more. And that being said, I'll catch you there. Comment down below how you did today, and I'll see you next time.